Good evening, good evening, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are going to be talking about conflict, and I know that I discussed this information with you guys 2 weeks ago, stating that we're going to talk about conflict, deal with conflictual situations, and we're going to talk about the different types of conflict as well as talking or discussing on how to manage the conflicts that we're in. So, what I want to first do is I want to get started with the question that I posted on Facebook earlier on today. And that question that I posted was for conflict. Do you think that avoiding conflicts in any relationship is healthy? And I asked the question why or why not, asked you to leave your comments. I got several different comments in regards to whether or not conflicts would be healthy or unhealthy if you avoid them in a situation. And I would like to say that no one particular answer, in my opinion, was inaccurate because everybody have their own personal opinions about their different situations. However, I want to deal with them because I believe that once we go through the meaning of conflict, the different type of conflicts, and how we manage them, and especially dealing with conflictual avoidance, then we'll understand more the reasons of why I asked the question. So let's dig in because, as I stated before, on these podcasts, I'm not going to keep you long. I want to be as expeditious as possible because everybody has something to do. However, if we go, we go. All right. So let's get started. What is conflict? So that's the first thing that we want to deal with in knowing what conflict actually is. And so in this, I want to start out by giving you the definition of conflict. So conflict can be a verb as well as a noun. I'm going to do the noun definition, which is a battle, fight, struggle, especially a prolonged struggle or strife, discord of action or feeling or effect. So, any type of struggle that you may have, whether it's individual, well, it is with others, however be it, any type of discord is what conflict actually is. And so, the types of conflicts that we deal with now, there are several different types of conflicts out there, but the type of conflicts that we deal with that are more, I guess, prevalent, if you will, more noticeable, one that mostly people deal like in every day would be the conflict with ourselves. That should be self-explanatory, but conflict with yourself or within yourself, meaning you're really battling something within your mind. It's an inner struggle with your self-doubts and your own nature. I think one of the ways that I can describe what conflict with yourself is like, the memes or whatever, where you have the devil on one shoulder and you got an angel on the other shoulder, and it's a battle between what you should do, your like beliefs or your morals or your beliefs or your needs, and you're like, the angel is saying don't do it, you shouldn't do it, and the devil is like, but you need it, so let's go get it. That's a conflict within yourself. And so that's one conflict. And the other one would be a conflict with others. Again, self explanatory, where you may have a disagreement with someone about an idea or with values. It could be minute, but within the disagreements, if you trigger something, if there's a feeling that is triggered, that is extremely strong, that minute conflict can become huge. And that's usually because there's a deep personal need or a root issue that is often the core of that problem. So when I posted the question on Facebook in regards to conflictual avoidance, I did so because in dealing with the conflicts, and let me back up, there are other conflicts, like I said. So you have conflicts environmental, right? Where it's in nature, or you have supernatural conflict where you're dealing with, again, that belief, or that whether you're conflicting with your personal belief, religion of some sort. But when I put about the relationship conflict, one person had on Facebook in regards to the term relationship, and really dealing with the word relationship, whether or not you would avoid conflict or not with that word. And then I noticed the conflict with the word using, whether you're trying to avoid a conflict or prevent a conflict. So let's talk about what conflict avoidance really is. So conflict avoidance is a type where people are mostly people pleasing. It's a people pleasing behavior that typically comes from deep rooted fear of upsetting others. And people who respond to conflict that way often expect negative outcomes, and they find it difficult to trust others or other people's reaction. And so avoiding conflict can manifest itself in a romantic relationship, your friendship relationship, or even family dynamics. So you must move forward in the face of your fears and express your emotions authentically. And that's what we're going to talk about today: expressing your emotions authentically and dealing with these conflicts, so then that you won't avoid them, because avoiding them can be very unhealthy. Avoiding them scientifically has been noted that if you avoid actually having conflict, which is something that's natural, your natural beings, you're going to have conflict. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute, of why it's inevitable to have it. But if you are having conflict avoidance and you start holding this stuff in, you can make yourself physically ill. You can give yourself mental stressors, and you could really, really, really do a burden and detriment to yourselves. So we want to deal with the avoidance and how not to do it, talk about what it looks like, and then why it's not helpful, and how we're going to try to manage it. Okay. So conflict avoidance, again, people pleasing, in other words, asserting your own opinion, can seem scary or unnerving, and you prefer that it is seen as the nice person versus dealing with a situation. For example, um, let's say I am working with somebody on a project, and I did all of the work on the project. Like, I did everything. Like, you had those group projects in school. I used to have group projects in school, especially with statistics. Ugh, I hated it. But I had these group projects, right? And they would put us in these teams. Everybody would get together, and everybody's going to say what everybody's going to do. But it's usually that one person that really, really does everything. So let's say that was me. And I'm that one person that really did everything on this project for work. Your boss comes in and he's elated, and all of a sudden, Sean, I'm just using that name, no particular reason, Sean steps up, that was in the group, and starts talking about the project as if he developed it and he did everything on the project. And you know good and well Sean did not do it, that dread thing. But Sean is doing all this talking, and now the boss is engaged with Sean because Sean seems like he know everything. Now I'm quiet because there's a battle going on. A battle is going on within myself. A self conflict arises because now I'm trying to deal with the situation of how I'm going to address it. If I'm going to address it, am I going to talk about it? That's already self conflict. I'm dealing with myself at this point. It's inevitable to have a conflict. Conflicts can't be avoided. So now I'm dealing with this conflict of whether or not I got to tell my boss, Sean ain't did nothing. I did it. Okay. And so, how is that going to look? Is that going to look like, oh, I'm selfish? I'm not a team player. I just want to be the one to take the lead. Well, I did take the lead, right? Because I did everything. However, I say nothing. I allow Sean to get all of the praises. I allow Sean to get a raise. I don't know. I'm just saying a raise, but if he got a raise, I probably would say something. Anyway, but I allow Sean to get the raise. I allow Sean to do everything. And I never, ever say one thing about it. Don't open up about it. I literally don't say anything. And I just let it go. Never coming back to address it. I never say to my boss, Brad, I really did do this. You praise Sean, but I really did all the work. Ask Sean for some paperwork and see what he comes up with, right? Something. I never say that. And you don't want to, what's the word? Seem like brown nosing or having a pity party or want to look, like you're not wanting to be a part. But when you put your heart and you strive to do it, you want something. I mean, recognize me for something. So you don't say anything. That's conflict avoidance, period. You prefer to be seen as the nice person. You do not open your mouth and healthy, so you can think you having a healthy conflict. And actually, that just hits rock bottom because you just don't want to rock the boat. That is an example of conflict avoidance. Here's some examples of how it may manifest. Stonewalling. Y'all know what stonewalling is, right? Stonewalling is like denying an issue exists by totally ignoring it. Fear of disappointing others, deliberately sidestepping conversations, and silently resenting unresolved issues. These are ways that you actually avoid conflicts. And again, why is it not helpful? Being a conflict avoidant also impacts our relationship because we're cutting off all the honest communication with the other individual, cutting it off. So if you don't talk about it, if you don't delve in it, if you do not discuss that information, then you become an untrue party when it comes to communicating. How's it going? Everything's fine. That's a lie. It's not fine. All is not well. So you're trying to avoid the conflict with Sean. I'm going to continue to use that name since it's in my head for some reason. You're trying to avoid having a conflict with Sean, but at the same time, you're having that inner conflict. I was sitting here trying to decide or trying to think about the whole thing of preventing a conflict. And I keep saying, even though you're trying to prevent a conflict, because a lot of the conflicts or a lot of the comments in regards to conflict avoidance were basically talking about preventing a conflict. You don't want to cause an issue. You want to have your own healthy, like you're feeling like if I just don't say anything, that it's all good. I'm going to be passive about it. I'm going to move on to the next. One thing that I saw in that is that even though you're trying to prevent having a conflict with the individual, you're still having some type of conflict because in your prevention of having a conflict with somebody else, there it goes there. Your internal conflict begins because at some point, now I'm talking about myself because guess what? I prevented, quote unquote, a lot of conflicts on my own. And in preventing having a conflict with somebody else, to not look like I'm always trying to fight, because that's the other thing. A lot of times when people are having conflicts, people are always thinking that you're trying to fight, you're trying to have an argument, and that's the perception. And I think somebody else said that on their comments. It's the perception of the other individual. Even though you're really, really trying to discuss the information, you're perceived, because you're trying to discuss it, as the person that's the antagonist, that you're always trying to cause an issue. So then I started trying to prevent the conflict by not saying anything. All that did was made self conflicts within me. I was eating myself up because now I'm trying to figure out, why is this happening? If I had said XYZ, dude, I said it. If I had said XYZ, would it have made a difference? Would it have been better for me to say something or not? And so then I become that person that's not communicating properly. I'm lying to the individual and I'm lying to myself because all is not well. all is not right. So you have to actually say something and deal with the conflict. So let's talk about strategies of overcoming it. To overcome a conflict, number one, you got to recognize that any of the above signs that I mentioned earlier is in yourself. Is the signs in yourself? All right. Do you see any of those things happening? And of course, again, everybody have different opinions and different feelings. I'm not saying that anybody's comments were incorrect. I'm just stating what my research is and what I found when I put my pen to paper. And this is what I believe in regards to helping myself out and what it took for me to start to resolve and have resolutions to problem solving. Refrain or reframe confrontation. Conflict resolution is about standing up for yourself and communicating when you feel angry and frustrated. Now, those two words, angry and frustrated, comes in. Just because you're angry and frustrated does not mean that you cannot communicate well. I can be completely angry and speak to you just like this and say, you know what? You getting on my last nerve because what you just said was very inappropriate and I don't agree with it. And now we need to talk about it. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But I'm letting you know what you did to me. It happened. I don't like it. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't screaming, but I was angry. But I made my point. I got my point across. I communicated very well. And now I feel lighter, right? So you have to confront it. It's also about ensuring that the problematic issues, like the one with the coworker that I stated, are dealt with so they don't happen again in the future. When you avoid conflicts, whether it's in your relationship romantically, whether it's with your friends or in the dynamics of your family, if you avoid a situation, if you do not deal with the conflict, if there is no resolve, then whatever the conflict is will show up again. I don't care if it's 2 minutes later, because sometimes it happens that fast, or whether it's hours later, it is going to show up. It could be years later, but because there's no resolve, that root begins to spread and grow. And when that root grows, the tree get bigger. So again, now something that was minute and really, 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 really small becomes this huge, massive angel oak tree that then, because it's so old, people say, dare not touch it, dare not cut it down, because if you do, then it's going to crumble. I'd rather it crumble so we can get it resolved. All right. So make a plan. How do you make a plan? Having a plan set before confronting someone can help you feel more prepared in the moment. So, with people that say sometimes you have to walk away, to avoid the conflict, their avoidance is walking away. I think it's the word, not necessarily meaning that they're trying to avoid it. In my opinion, this is my opinion. That to me is more like preventing a conflict in the moment. So in that moment, you decide, I'm not doing this. This is not a good situation. I need to write all my information down or what I have to say. Because sometimes, as someone said, you can start talking and you start popping off at the mouth. God knows what'll come out. We don't want that kind of issue. We don't want that kind of problem because that adds fuel to the fire. That's not what's good. That's not how you resolve an issue. So have a plan. Write it down. Once you write your plan down, rehearse it. Rehearse those concise points, the things that you really, really want to get across. You might not get to talk about all the stuff, but the ones that you really, really want to say, rehearse it so you can get it across to whomever you're trying to deal with it so you can be confident when you're addressing them. So if there's a conflict, I'm going to use me and my husband, for example. We have conflicts. I'm smiling. I love you, honey. We do. And that's natural. That's normal. We're human. We're not going to agree on everything. So then a conflict may arise. There are a lot of times that we have to step back, take a second, breathe. He breathes more than I do because with me, I'm ready to let's go. Let's get it in. Let's talk. I have to learn, and I have been learning to take a step back, chill out for a moment. So I step back, I chill, I breathe. He breathes. While he's breathing, I'm writing it down. Because when I'm ready to address it, I'm going to address it, because you can't go to someone with a conflict and say, you did XYZ, and they don't remember, or you say you're always doing the word always. I hate saying that, because always mean there's never a time that they don't do something correctly, right? Say if you say you're always slapping me in my face. So I'm continuously slapping you. So then there's never a time that you're not being slapped by me. Always is not a good word. So in sometimes, in some moments, this is what happens, or this is what you do. Then, give me an example, or give me a precise moment. Tell me how you feel in that moment. What's going on? You got to be able to have that information written well, or rehearsed well. So when it's brought up and the other person wants to discuss it, then you have good pieces of information. I would say everything that you can possibly have in conflict, to relieve the stress that you may be having. And you can recognize it, manage your feelings. Recognizing and managing your feelings. Practice, or you can try practice these type of affirmations, as to say, it's okay to feel how I'm feeling at this moment. My emotions are valid. My emotions are valid. Okay, so it's okay for me to feel this way. My emotions are valid. I am worthy and deserving of being heard. Those are things that you can also say. Also, all of my experiences, good and bad, give me the space to grow. Those are some affirmations that you can practice to recognize and manage your feeling. And you need to also know when you need help. A lot of times we get to the point that while it can be tempting to bottle up the feelings inside, when you compile them so much without ever going back to it, you're actually avoiding conflicts, and it's frustrating. It makes you feel angry, um, because you don't want to rock the boat. And when you leave these things unresolved, it can have that pent up frustration that can lead to loneliness and depression, over time. So make sure you speak to someone, a qualified therapist or a counselor, someone that can help you in those areas. So those are different signs, and those are different types of avoidance. So when you recognize the avoidance and trying to help yourself build on the avoidance, sorry, then you need to manage the conflicts. Now I'm talking, but I'm wondering if anyone have any questions. They can definitely join in, put your questions and comments in, and we'll be glad to put them up and read them if you so desire, in regards to what we're talking about. But also the tips for managing your conflicts, there are several tips. I'm just going to go over a few, in some detail, but a few tips of managing conflicts, and we're almost done. Accepting the conflict. Accept that there is something going on. Accept that there is a problem that needs to be resolved. A conflict cannot be resolved unless it is addressed and it's appropriate with both of the individuals. Okay. Be a calming agent. Don't go in raging and fiery mad. Get your point across, because again, that adds fuel to the fire. So to be calming, provide an objective and neutral point of view. Listen carefully. A lot of times when we are having a conflict with someone, we tend to hear, but you don't tend to listen. And most of the time, you're hearing just to respond because you're ready to just say what you got to say because you're not caring about what they're saying. But you need to actively listen, work through how you feel, what the specific problem is, and what impact it is having on you. You have a feeling. I feel the strongest feeling. Say what it is when you objectively, um, you have objective descriptive behavior, the when you parts of it. The because is the specific impact or the consequences, and then the I would like, what you would like during this conflict, what you want the person to do in the future to prevent problems from happening. You need to analyze the conflict, analyze it by finding out what triggered it, who are you angry with, make sure you're angry with the right person. What are you not getting that you want? What you're afraid of losing? Is your conflict anger accurate, or did you exaggerate it? And how can the conflict be resolved? So these are some tips for that healthy conflict and how you manage it. Agree to disagree. That I can't really say anything else about that. Agree to disagree. Everybody's not going to come to agreement. I don't agree, but we're good. All right. Work together. Focus on the future. A lot of times there are conflicts that are pinned up, that are rooted, are in the past. We can bring it up to let it know it was there, but move on with it, push through it, work together, let that individual know, or even if it's a conflict within yourself, you know it's there, you deal with it, move on, go look towards your future, stop dwelling on your past, because we don't move backwards, we move forward. Share your interests, be creative when you're dealing with the conflicts that you're trying to manage. Be specific. When problem solving, when you're doing your problem solving, make sure you're very specific about what you're doing um, in any aspect. Clarify ambiguous terms so that each person may interpret them the same way, because many times people interpret things quite differently. And most of all, maintain confidentiality. So if it's something that's going on between you and an individual, especially if it's a conflict that could be touchy, you want to make sure that you are remaining confident, or have the confidentiality of that person's issue there without spreading it, without telling anybody else and running rampant and wild with it. So those are the information, or those are the things that I gather in regards to conflicts. If you have any questions, I said, in concern, feel free to inbox me. Feel free to send us a nice message in regards to conflict. But just remember, we must move forward in the face of your fears and express your emotions authentically. I can't say that enough. In order to move past in your conflicts, you got to be authentic. You got to be real about the situation. You cannot say there's something not wrong when you know definitely there is. We don't want to be contagious with our conflicts, because you can have that so built up it festers, and you start putting your conflictual battles, whether it's within yourself, you start spreading it to other people, and it can be very toxic. So please, please, please learn about the conflicts that you have within you. Build on trying to decipher them and trying to manage them. And if you need help, get help regarding your conflicts. Get help that you need from a licensed therapist, someone that really, really knows and can understand, and are deemed to have to keep your personal business to themselves and in confidence. Okay. So, this is all I have for you all on this wonderful evening. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us this week. Remember, in 2 weeks, we will be coming back forth with you with Danielle Speaks. You can visit us on YouTube channel at hashtag Danielle Speaks as well, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you there. I do see that we have a question. Let me see if I can get back to it. Let's see here. Trying to see if I can get back to that comment that I just saw. And I don't want to say who the person was that actually said the comment. What if the person have conflict What if the person you have conflict with is unwilling to give validity to your feelings? Oh, that is a great question. A really, really great question. What if that person does not give validity to your feelings? Guess what? You did your part. You can't force a person to learned or render who they are. You have to deal within yourself. Once you realize what the conflict is and you go to that individual, you talk to that individual and you say, hey, this is the conflict I'm having. And if they say, well, I don't know why you having that conflict, because that has happened to me. I don't know why you feel the way you feel, or I don't know why you're having a conflict in this matter, or you feel like, I'm not treating you fairly. If they can't validate it, don't worry about it. You know it. You've done your part and you said it. Make peace with yourself that you did your part and then you move on. That's what I would do. And I would also say then that you pray and you ask God then to help you in that area and help you in that situation, um, to help, and even pray for the individual that they can see what's going on and what they are doing that could cause the pain that you're feeling and the pain that you're suffering from what they've caused on you to do. But I would not say, especially when people are talking about conflict in relationships, I wouldn't dare say to drop the individual or just leave them alone. Still show love to them, but know in the area in which you are hurt that you move from it and you just make sure that you stated it so you're not hurt again. And if they do it again, guess what? It's a pattern, then you deal with that in the way that you deem necessary that is healthy for yourself, because self worth, um, self health is very important, and that's what you need to be striving for. That was a great question that I believe that was asked. Are there any more questions? I'm trying to I'm trying to see. Listen carefully, don't hear. Right. I think that that is all of the questions that I am seeing. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to inbox us. You can also contact me at contact@daniellerlee.com. That is an email to where I can see your messages. You can also personal email me at danielle@daniellerlee.com, and I will put those email addresses in the comment sections for you so that you will be able to contact me from there. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. We do appreciate everything. Uh, and appreciate your time. So that is it. I was just double checking to make sure that there were no more questions. And so thank you so much. We will see you in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks from today. And that is going to be, I believe, the first Tuesday in October. That we will be seeing you 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stay tuned. I will be posting what the next topic would be. It's going to be great. I promise you, and you may see another individual sitting beside me. Who knows? But thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Remain safe and be blessed. Until next time. #Danielle Speaks.